we get dealt pocket aces for the third time today. Kevin raises to 30 on the button. He's got the biggest stack at the table. I've got the second biggest stack. I 3-bet to 120. Kevin has a strong enough hand to go to war with. He calls for 90 more. We're heads up out of position with the best starting hand in poker and what's shaping up to be a big pot. The flop comes 10-4 deuce rainbow. It should be a good one. It's not very connected and we don't have to worry about a flush draw. I bet 130. Kevin's okay with that amount. He calls. Part of me is worried that he might have a set, but we can't always think that there are monsters under the bed. The turn is the 9 of clubs, putting a flush draw on the board for a suit that we don't have. I check to see how Kevin wants to proceed. If he checks back, I'll know we're good. He doesn't check back though. He bets 260. Even with it being more likely now that we're up against a set or 10-9 suited, I didn't check with intentions of folding to a bet. Kevin could still have hands that were beating like semi-bluffs. We don't have the ace of clubs, so there are quite a few flush draw combos that he could have. I call to see the river. The dealer puts out the deuce of clubs, completing the backdoor flush. The only good thing about it is that the number of flop set combos that the button could have is reduced, and the straight draws on the turn, like king jack and queen jack, miss. I check again. I'd really like to see a check back so that we can get to showdown. My friend Kevin, who I've known for over 10 years, bets 770. He's betting even though I could definitely have an overpair like I do right now, even occasionally the flush. Kevin would probably check back queens or jacks at this point, so he's saying he has me crushed, or he's bluffing. I don't know if I'm good enough to lay this down twice today. I'm trying to piece together what my opponent could have. He could definitely have flushes and full houses. It's such a frustrating situation, only made more difficult by the fact that the guy who literally took 5 minutes before folding pretend aces to my bluff shove earlier is now saying that I'm taking too much time for this decision when we're facing a large river bet after 2 minutes when I really do have aces. No. You don't get to call the clock on anybody.
Hey, I'm paying for my time, man. Give it another couple minutes. Give it a couple minutes. Mary. Hey, I'm paying for my time.
2 minutes is a good amount of time, but this particular player takes a long time on nearly every decision, so this is kind of ridiculous, but ultimately the floor comes over to give me a 30-second countdown. About 5 seconds into it, I fold. My friend wins a big pot against me. Nice hand, Kevin. Nice hand.
I don't think you would have called it in there. Only for Brad. Only for Brad. Show the bluff. Show the bluff. Show one, you can show all.
Wow. Kevin is nice enough to show that he turned a set of 9s and river to full house. We made 2 correct river folds with rockets. Here we've got king-queen suited in the small blind. The button raises to 30. You're not supposed to flat any hands from the small blind when the button opens and the straddle's on. You're supposed to play a tight range and either 3-bet or fold. King-queen suited definitely falls within the playable 3-bet range. We re-raised to 120. That's apparently not enough for my buddy Jake, who's on my left in the big blind. He cold 4-bets to 280, while our mutual friend Jeff has come over from another table to say hi and watch us battle. The button folds. It's not much more for us, and we're playing with piles in our stack. I call. We're heads up out of position in a 4-bet pot. The flop comes 10-3 deuce with 2 clubs. We've got a flush draw with 2 overs and a backdoor straight draw. I check. I wouldn't mind seeing a free turn. We don't get it, but we won't have to pay much. The big blind bet's 175. I love the price we're getting. I call. The turn is the king of diamonds, giving us top pair to go along with our big draw. I check, expecting to see another bet from my friend since this is more often going to be a better card for him. The big blind doesn't bite. He surprisingly checks back. Our top pair is probably in the lead. The river is the 7 of hearts. It's a blank. I don't get the sense that my buddy has much. He could have a hand like ace-queen or worse. I check to induce a bluff because I know that that's what Jake, who's wearing a red shirt and khakis, likes to do. The big blind takes out some black chips at bet 700. No time goes by before we grab chips to instantly call.
Call.
What do we have there, Jake? What do we got?
Oh my god.
You guys probably thought I was lying about the red shirt to make a Jake from State Farm joke, didn't you? Not this time. We're sitting right next to each other, and like a good neighbor, we crush his soul into tiny pieces. There's nothing like a sweet victory in a large pot against a good friend who tried to bluff us. We're up over $5,000 tonight. Richard Seymour is a Hall of Fame football player who has 3 Super Bowl rings with New England Patriots. I've actually played poker with Richard multiple times at Red Rock. He's solid. The most interesting thing to me about this table, though, is that my first friend that I made when I moved to Las Vegas is sitting on the other side of Richard from me. I've known Brian Gates since the first week I moved to the city over a decade ago. He's been on the vlog before, and more recently, when Andrew and I were interested in maybe opening up a brewery, Brian is the person who's going to be our brewmaster since he's extremely talented in that department and has won several awards for his brews. Just because I'm friends with Brian and have played with Richard before, doesn't mean I'm going to go easy on him. A few hands into the level, Brian raises a 65,000 from the button. That won't intimidate the 6'6" former Bulldog, weighing in at about 300 pounds.
180.
Richard 3-bets to 180,000. We look down for the first time at our cards and see ace-queen offsuit. After putting in the ante, we've got 28 big blinds that we started the hand with. Both of my opponents have shown at least some strength. Brian could be opening with quite a few hands from the button, so I'm not super concerned about him. I'm more concerned about Richard having a monster, like aces, kings, ace-king, or queens. I don't want to fold, and I don't really want to flat a 3-bet for 20% of my stack. We're getting closer and closer to massive payouts, so any mistake, particularly when you're covered and debating whether or not to go all in, could be extremely costly. When you're watching the stream and able to see the cards, it's easy to know what to do. When you're in the game, that's not the case at all. Each situation like this is extremely tense. I 4-bet shove anyway and hold my breath, just hoping that no one's at the top of their range. Brian folds immediately. Richard doesn't have anything that he wants to get it in with. He folds as well. We win a key hand that gets us back over the million mark. The very next hand, Brian has dealt more playable cards. He opens a 65,000 from the cutoff. We're in the small blind with pocket kings. This stream couldn't have started out much better. I wish it was against anyone else at the table, but after we raised my friend 2 hands in a row, I make it 200,000. With Brian's stack, he's a bit handcuffed. If we were deeper, he could certainly call. Here, he understandably folds. I show the table so that they know that I'm not just playing like a maniac. I've actually been getting dealt good cards. This helps craft an image of me having it. Perhaps it'll induce more folds for me down the line when I don't have it.
Fold the Nemi and the hijack. With
Get in there with the king 9 from the hijack.
King 9 double suited, good enough.
A classic Nemi Brad Owen pot here. Nemi mixing it up a little bit. Flops top pair.
She just does it. Like, she makes
Much better than that with your king 9 off.
But she made up a bunch of the Vegas strong stickers that go on your window.
60.
Now this flop doesn't hit Nemi that much, so not too crazy to get a call here out of Brad with a backdoor flush draw and an overcard. Backdoor straight draw as well.
Now he's got. And she donates all the money.
There have been some interesting runouts so far on the show this evening, to say the least.
Super nice.
Oh, I would, Brad.
Brad drills the best available card for his hand, the turn card, an undercard to a 9 high board.
Can we see the king of spades on the river? I didn't see what cards were folded.
Range.
Can we see the king of spades on the river? And then let's let Brad slow roll.
I don't know if slow roll is in either one of their wheelhouses, honestly.
I know. Have we ever seen them heads up in a pot with each other before?
No, I have not.
This would be some value entertainment-wise.
Alas.
These two guys know a lot about each other. This is going to be interesting how this plays out. Does Brad think he can 3-barrel bluff Nemi here?
At this point, I think Brad thinks he only loses if Nemi drilled that queen. Again, that 9 high board not likely to be in Nemi's range when he opens from the hijack. So I
disagree with. I think when people open from the hijack, their range is so wide that there's no reason why a hand like a 9-10, Jack 9, 9-8 suited can't be there.
He can have a 9. He certainly can have a 9, 10-9 suited, hands like that, but it's unlikely.
Or even, what about a hand like ace trade? I mean, obviously he doesn't have it. I think that Brad believes he doesn't have it because he hasn't put money into the pot here. But raising with an ace trade from the hijack.
Sure, suited ace and wheel card, always reasonable holding to get it in there with, sometimes even to 4-bet with.
Interesting line for Brad here. Calls pre, check calls flop, and then just goes barrel. I get it. You pick up so much equity on this.
Nemi calling station has been announced. Well, I tell you what, if that's true, it's going to serve him well here.
Rock hard. What is it? Rock hard rain believes that 450 looks like it's a bluff, but that's the beauty of the bet because it does look like it's that polarizing bet we've talked about, right? It's either all or nothing type of bet.
Yep.
And that's kind of the hardest decision right now in poker is deciding what that bet is, right? Like, is it a bluff? Is it a call?
Sure. These 80% pot river bets, they can be either one.
Because let's be like, Brad would probably make the same play with like king, queen of spades, queen, jack of spades or something. Maybe he floats, pick up the flush draw, and now hits the queen on the river. I mean, it's a very polarizing range there.
Here's the other question. At some point,
I think Nemi's going to talk himself into a call here because I don't necessarily agree that King Queen would bet out here. I think King Queen wants to check and call because they have so much showdown value here, and I think Nemi knows that. So a bet suggests that Brad's got some flop sets.
Well, then
maybe some turn straights.
Well, that's the other thing is ace 3 out of Brad's range here? And it's no.
That's what Nemi's
lets
asking.
Yeah, and he let it go.
And the line that Brad takes absolutely does look like it could be a flop.
We will talk to them after the show about the
upset.
We will talk to them after the show about the Brad's great bluff here on Nemi.
Here we've got deuces in the small blind. Spraggy, who's an avid Oasis fan, like he really loves them, opens a 20 in the hijack. The button calls, I call, Jeff Boski calls in the big blind. We're going 4 ways to the flop. It's 10-8 deuce with 2 hearts. We have bottom set against a couple of my favorite people in poker, Jeff Boski and Little Gordon Ramsay. I check, Jeff checks, Spraggy loves pain, he bets 55. The button calls, there are lots of draws, I'm not going to slow play this. I raised to 200. Jeff doesn't have anything to stick around with, he folds. Spraggy is a non-believer. He 3-bet rips it in for 864 effective, like some kind of mad villain in Doctor Who. The button folds. I call. I'm playing a huge all-in for this game against one of my buddies, and I have no idea what he has.
We're good. I like the bet on Brad.
The turn is the queen of spades, so queens and jack 9 are now beating me. The river is the 4 of diamonds. We show Spraggy our hand, and the dude is not happy.
What an insane loser you are, actually. Aces are real, real
Kings? Oh, this feels so good.
truly pathetic individual.
Put all his money in with one pair.
I check raise and he just rips it.
Does he have any combos? What's he got?
Alright.
It's always bittersweet to beat your buddy in a huge all-in situation. Obviously, I'm happy to win the pot, and I know Spraggy's happy for me to have a lot of his money. Plus, it's captured on video that'll be on YouTube forever. But Marley has left Spraggy here without a car by himself, and it got really uncomfortable when Spraggy told me that he might need to borrow money for a bus ride home. I had to tell him no. He's a really good friend, but he needs to learn some lessons the hard way, like not to get it in with one pair for 200 big blinds and multi-way pots. It'll be for his own good. To make things tougher, I got the sense that he didn't like having to watch me write notes about the hand in my phone, mostly because he tweeted about it. I can definitely understand how that would be annoying. If I just played a hand terribly and got stacked, I wouldn't want there to be any documentation of it either. It's just that I'm trying to make the vlog the best that it can be. I have to provide a lot of details, and sometimes when I'm writing all those details in the hand history, it takes a little while. I even put in hand history keys in my notes. It's a tough one for Spraggy. My advice to him is, you gotta roll with it. Do you know what I mean? Some might say, don't look back in anger. And I don't think that he did.
Thanks, man.
Really nice one.